10. Man the calories.
Dr. Pepper, established 1885, 10.
10 bold tasting calories. Same 23 authentic flavors.
With great taste and fewer calories, Dr. Pepper 10 is the perfect fix.
Welcome, dear listener, to our podcast. Jeff and Rick present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack,
where we journey through each issue of comics that include a member of the most underrated Marvel series from the 80s while drinking beer.
analyzing awesome and amazing adjacent adolescent adventures, and absorbing alcohol.
I am Jeff.
I am Rick.
I am Tom.
And I am Chris.
Random banter is the action of randoming a foreigner from a country. Random banter time, buddies. Talk to me, tell me tall tales and tantalizing tidbits of trivia today.
Are you smuggling in somebody else from another country?
I'm not smuggling anybody. Might be doing the opposite.
Oh, okay. Extra.
Deportation, my friend.
There we go. That's what I meant to say.
Just picking somebody up and throwing them out of the country.
Yeah, that works.
I mean, really appropriate for this particular issue we're covering here. What with North Star's travails.
Tom's got the idea. That's why I did this one.
Really appropriate for our dystopian hellscape. Absolutely.
I'm not going to say you're wrong, because you're not. And wow, we're already political on this, but it's going to happen anyways.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's the nature of the beast.
It really is. We should introduce you to our listeners, because they probably can't tell you apart from us, since we are four gentlemen all with beards, and it's very easy to have a problem seeing who's who. Plus, we're all white as well.
Yeah, we all have that beard accent.
Yeah.
A beard accent.
I would like to introduce Tom and Chris. That's just not going to stop being funny. Tom and Chris from Why Not Read Alpha Flight. I think that's what it's called. Something like that?
Yes, that is the official title of our show. We have added Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom. There's not a lot of other Alpha Flight podcasts we need to differentiate from, but we wanted to make sure our names were available so people would recognize us when we do things like this.
Or show up in the wild.
No, it's good. You get to get the branding.
So we do a podcast about Alpha Flight because Tom was twisting my arm and saying, look, buddy, you know more about comics than anyone I know. And I said, everything is being covered already. I mean, I've read every issue of Alpha Flight. Do you want me to talk about Alpha Flight? And Tom said, yes.
Actually, the way I heard it was that Tom lost a bet.
No.
I heard it was a lot like what happened with me and Rick, where Rick came to me and he said, now, Jeff, everyone else has said no.
Or it could be a little from column A and a little from column B.
Tom, would you like to differentiate this for us? What's the real story?
It's what Chris said, so it really ends up being the column A, column B situation here. I felt like there is a good podcast to be had. Chris and I talking comics, and Alpha Flight is... Why would you do a podcast about Alpha Flight? Which was the exact reason to do a podcast about Alpha Flight.
You know, it's the same reason you do a podcast about Power Pack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you become the only fish in a very shallow pond.
Yeah, our tagline is that we are the best podcast about Alpha Flight that you will ever hear.
It's quite possibly true.
It's not possibly. It is true.
It's true. It's very true.
We were described by YouTube or podcast show or something. It was like we were a niche of a niche.
Yeah.
The long tail is paying off for us, my brethren.
So you're doing a podcast, and everybody does a podcast. You're doing it on comic books. Well, that's a little corner of the market. You're doing it on Power Pack?
Ain't nobody else talking about it, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
You know, we are in the top 100 podcasts about all arts and culture in Canada. So I take that as a badge of pride that we're doing something good and valuable to the world.
Dude, that's awesome.
I take that as a statement about Canada's current state that we're
Tom, why you gotta be that way, buddy?
Oh, we've already covered why.
So listeners to our show will know that we have said that we were on their show, and we had so much fun with them that we wanted them on our show, and we just happened to be covering a book that has Power Pack in it. And
does it really?
Yes, it does. We have covered for less.
Yes, we can point and authoritatively say,
Yes.
Power Pack is in it.
And it also has a member of Alpha Flight in it. So this is perfect. Perfect for us.
Well, we're happy to be here, buddy.
Yes.
Glad to
Buddies.
have you guys here. This is nice.
It's good to have friends.
Yeah, when we recorded on their show, we enjoyed it so much that we disrupted their publication schedule. So,
Yeah.
see if that happens here.
I'm already looking forward to editing a good 2-hour plus show that we're going to do. I don't know how it's going to fit down, but I'm going to be hating life in about a week or so.
Oh, listeners, this is a good time.
Folks, I occupy that role on our show, and mother of God. I will actually send you guys the final Audacity version of that project so you can see all the spots where I cut, I adjusted, I muted one person just so you could hear the other 3 jokers talking at that time. And man, I almost cursed, doing my best not to like step over that line on this show, because good Lord, we don't have those rules on our show.
That was the best part of being on your show. Is like, we are unfiltered. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a family-friendly show. Us ourselves are not necessarily family-friendly, but the show is, so...
Well, we all have families. We are all friendly. We are all family-friendly, and every family is different. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
We recently did something on our Patreon where we had 2 other guys on the show too. And so I understand completely of just taking things and like, okay, well, let's put this here and move everybody over this way so we can hear this person. And yeah, it's a fun trick. Tom and I know what we have to go through in order to put out a good quality show.
For you, the listeners.
Yes.
For our art,
Yes,
such as it is.
it's art. I will fight you. It is art. Speaking of art, let's get into our art. Jeff, can you please give us a 2-cents replay from last episode?
The Antastic Four have to go on a road trip to the Microverse, but they need someone to sit the kids at the Future Foundation to make sure that they don't swallow their own tongues or learn about how fun it is to play with matches. So they ask good old reliable Spider-Man to caretake. But Spider-Man is secretly the superior Otto Octavius, and he finds the children to be dumb and burdensome. But he does like Bentley's designs for a chronal engine that also attracts the attention of the TVA, who are going to purge the Future Foundation for time crimes stemming from said device. Now that the day is saved when Otto intimidates Bentley into destroying his blueprints and wetting himself, 2-sentence replay is over. Why don't you give me a beer and tell us what our Power Pack pick is?
My pleasure, my friend. Now that Tom and Chris have seen what I have to do to edit this to make Jeff sound good, I'm going to go ahead and give you a beer so you sound even worse and make my job even harder.
I'm falling apart today, that's all I know.
Okay, well, this will help. Jeff, can you please reach into that lovely paper bag I gave you and tell me what beer I gave you for this issue?
We have Kettle House Brewing Company's Cold Smoke. It's a Scotch ale. Oh, awesome. It tells me what the contents are, which is beer.
Yes.
Not lying, it actually does. It's at the bottom of the can. Yeah, this is a red can with a kind of like a whiteout little patch of snow or something with a skier going down a speed hill or something. What would that be about? What would a... gosh, when I think of snow, I think of the north, like a North Star would guide me to where snow might be, and people in like skiing bodysuits.
I'm going to stop you right there because North Star is a skier. Everybody in this is kind of cold. I think it's like a winter, fall.
Olympic champion skier, thank you very much.
Olympic champion skier, yes.
Yeah.
Also, it says cold smoke. Everybody looks cold, and everybody's being very cold to each other, too. I am very happy, though, and I picked this out before we knew that you guys were going to be on. If you guys were going to be on, I would have probably done something different, but I picked this out a long time ago, and I've wanted Jeff to have this beer. This is one of my favorite beers that I found in Montana. This is kind of their table beer in Montana, and it is so dang tasty.
Oh, you've told me about this.
I am very happy to share this with you. Guys, did you bring something to share to our show as well?
I did. I brought an Allagash Ski House Winter White Ale with basically the same theme. We've got North Star in this episode, so we should definitely be talking about skiing. It is a 7.5% alcohol by volume from Maine with Love. Maine, also known as New Brunswick. The other half will be New Quebec.
Very, very nice. Oh, I should say ours is 6.5%. So far, you are winning on the ABV.
And for my part, I have a Zwickel lager from Urban Chestnut Brewing Company, which is here in the St. Louis area. It is a blue can. It is a Bavarian-style lager that they describe as classically crafted, timeless European-style beers in an unfiltered, unpasteurized German classic that finishes as a smooth-drinking, naturally cloudy beer. I'm a lager fan, so this is a great daily driver, and it's what I have, and I don't have access to really cool beers like you guys do, because I live in a suburban hellscape.
Well, I will, however, point out that it is a Bavarian style, and since we do have Mr. Kurt Wagner on here, it works out pretty well.
Yes, it does.
Yes!
Also, hate
There
to
you
tell you,
go.
buddy, Urban Chestnut went into reorganization, so we'll see what their output looks like in the near future.
Oh man, I finally found a decent beer that I can show up with cool dudes like you and be like, yeah, I'm drinking this, and now they're going to go away, and I have to go find a new beer that is not Stag. Oh,
Yeah, they're
God.
gonna shut you down.
Yep.
The world
Yeah.
is a cruel and horrible place. Truly, no one has it worse than me.
So we're still talking about politics?
I'm sorry, is your podcast where a white guy comes on and says that the world is a cruel and horrible place and nobody has it harder than me?
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Why else would we have podcasts if not for that?
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, we just disguise ours by saying it's about a comic book, really.
Well, here I am cracking open my beer because on our show, we take a drink whenever Alpha Flight has an example of sex, death, failure, or a team up. And what we do is we play a sound of me opening a Zwickel can, which I'll give you a nice clear recording here. There we go. I'm ready. Take me on a ride, fellas.
Jeff, I need to know, what do you think of this?
It's a lovely color. It is you hold it up and you're like, oh, it looks kind of like a light stout. You put it over to some light and it's got a lovely, just chestnut color.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous. You pour it. It has got very, very flat head on it. The smell is almost non-existent with just a very small, like, oh yeah, it's got a little bit of beer flavor. It's not overwhelming. And then flavor-wise, there are things that I like better, but it has a very distinct, unique taste that I am enjoying.
Yeah, it's a dark, smooth ale with a slightly sweet coffee finish, which I think is about right. The nice thing about this beer is that this is one of these beers that it is easy, it is enjoyable to drink, it is smooth, it does not punch you or try to trick you. It just delivers on, this is a good tasting beer, and you can drink this. And drink it.
I could drink a lot of this.
And
I would
drink
be
it.
very happy to be just like going, hey, I guess I'm binging a show and I'm going to binge this beer.
Yes.
I'd be very, very happy with a day or a weekend like that.
Now, see, to me, it's sitting in a cafe sidewalk side in the city in about May 12th. And then you sit there and you have about 4 or 5 of these while you're just hanging out, enjoying the nice day, and watching the world go by. So, I'm on board, and I will be seeking out this beer in the future. Thank you, Jeff. You have sold me.
It's good. It's decent.
All right, we have all got our beers. Let us get into the show with the opening credits. Jeff, hit me.
Astonishing X-Men, issue number 59, April 2013. Credits. Writer, Marjorie Liu. Penciler, Gabriel Hernandez Walta. Inker, Gabriel Hernandez Walta. Colorist, Chris Peter. Letterer, Joe Caramanga. Editor, Janine Schaefer.
Featuring Northstar, Karma, Iceman, Gambit, Drasilia Reyes, Wolverine, She-Hulk, Kyle Jindu, and a picture of the Future Foundation featuring Alex Power.
When the premier superhero team asks the top superhero lawyer to pinch hit on their team, they cannot expect the lawyer to stop lawyering.
Especially when money is on the table.
Ah, is that why Jennifer Walters is sitting at her fancy lawyer desk, which is adorned with the photos of her new Fantastic Four team and the Future Foundation?
Alex Power representing!
You've inspired such fear in me as to what issues I might have to cover if Chris goes as deep as this.
Welcome to this liminal state of terror! And thank you, Rick. But who is this cranky, pointy-eared man sitting across from the sensational She-Hulk? I do not think I'm familiar with this dashing devil.
What? How can you not know about the legendary Canadian mutant Northstar, and an import from the greatest superhero team to ever exist?
I think you meant to say the greatest Canadian superhero team to ever exist. And I think the jury is still out on that one.
All right, I'm calling an audible on the script. Tom, you're wrong. There is no other Canadian superhero team, so by definition, they are the premier Canadian superhero team, and you are wrong.
Hey, buddy, in 6 months, there won't be Canadian superhero teams. So, here we are.
Dang. I was going to say, what about Beta Flight?
Oh, no, that's still Department H, and that is still part of them. And plus, as much... okay, listeners, look, the premise of our podcast is that we...
Wait, hang on. I'm going to stop right there. This is a fight that we can have later. For now, we should discover the reason for Jean-Paul to spend thousands of dollars for legal advice.
It's probably something that John Byrne did.
Tom, not now.
It appears that this is a deportation case. Yes, Jean-Paul has married an American citizen, but at this time, in early 2013, the federal government did not recognize that kind of marriage. Plus, he's in the country illegally anyway. Plus, he's a mutant. And he's universally recognized as a jerk.
I am pretty sure that you cannot be kicked out of the country for that reason.
Are you sure, Rick? Because I have a pile of complaints sitting on my desk that I've written out using that argument.
I think I'll have to go with Rick on this one, not based on my own experience or anything. Stupid circuit courts.
Back to the book. She-Hulk sympathizes with her fellow hero, how it kind of sucks how they can do so much good, but pesky things like borders, passports, and laws keep them down.
Point of order. North Star was a skiing champion before Chris cuts in an Olympic skiing champion, so he absolutely has a passport. Though the flying across the borders thing is legit, it seems like Alpha Flight and their laissez-faire attitude toward the American-Canadian border, it seems to have worn off on him quite a bit. Actually, wait a minute. She's lecturing an X-Man on respecting national borders? Those guys barely accept galactic boundaries. Rant finished.
Touché, Cecil. It's not all bad. He is still rich and white, so he's got options.
Man, I do love that being rich superpower.
Though it is Canadian rich, so Jennifer should probably time the exchange rate before cashing that particular check.
After flexing the money blast and paying for Jen's help, the sad North Star does the walk of shame out of the building before flying off into the sky. You know, your usual day that ends in Y for Jean-Paul. We're on a first-name basis with that guy.
Now we are in a little diner where Gambit, Wolverine, Karma, and Iceman are enjoying a meal in their civilian duds while chatting about the good old days where they used to go into little public restaurants and destroy the places when the bad guys showed up. Nostalgia for days that end in Y past.
It's not exactly what they were talking about, but it could be. What Gambit and Wolverine are not talking about is Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler.
This was during the time Kurt was dead, but an alternate version from the Age of Apocalypse was running around tricking everyone.
But people keep telling me that there's only one version of me, and honestly, that makes me sad.
I have questions.
Please do not ask them. I promise you. Jeff will tell you in disturbing details things you do not want to know.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like this one time at phlebotomy camp,
Jeff,
I'm over my
No.
This not Nightcrawler is creeping around a park, spying on a lady sitting on a park bench, reading a book that has a love note from a secret admirer. Is it Kurt? Is it someone else? Who could it be?
It's probably not the child who is yanking on Kurt's tail.
Wait, that's Kurt? I'm still confused by this, because I thought it could have either been the Thing or a Teenage Mutant Turtle. I mean, you know me, the trench coat fedora disguise is just so imperturbable. I can't get through it.
It could have been the Master from Alpha Flight, who also deploys the same level of disguise with the same level of effectiveness.
It could have been Inspector Gadget. Everybody uses this. Moving on. I will tell you who is not fooled. The kid's mom. She is disgusted that her son would touch a disgusting mutant's tail, especially while there are so many dirty sticks to play with.
I mean, there probably wasn't anyone bird watching she could call the cops on, so she actually noticed what her kid was up to. Moving on to another vignette. Let's look at a yoga class with Jean-Paul's husband, Kyle, and Cecilia Reyes. Instead of working on their core breathing, which I will note, Kyle was absolutely nailing the core breathing, they're talking about the immigration problem. Not that Jean-Paul's immigration problem. Not like you're talking about the immigration problem. We're going to keep going. Kyle loves living in New York, and he does not want to leave. He just identified his favorite coffee bar, that's just a milestone.
That's gold, baby.
And outside, Jean-Paul shows up to hit on his husband. Oh man, get a room, guys.
How about a tree branch? Because after Jean-Paul informs his husband about his mourning and the possibility of moving back to Canada, and maybe rejoining Alpha Flight and having to learn a whole new national anthem, a tree branch is where Kyle wants to be taken.
No, nobody should ever rejoin Alpha Flight, especially if Walt is still on the team.
Oh, sorry, guys. I broke my co-host.
Okay, I'm still confused by the branch thing. Jean-Paul is Canadian, not Angel.
Kyle just likes the view and being high when having stressful conversations. Living in Oregon, I can promise you there are easier ways to attain this mindset that do not involve bark.
Oh, I get it. I'm the only one that thought that was funny, but I thought it was very funny.
These two guys have a chat about loving New York and not wanting to be an American, which feels very today if you ask me.
You guys do get political on this show, right?
It has proven we already have, and we do live in the Portland metro area of Oregon. And let's just face facts, they're going to take away our podcasting license if we don't get political.
Well, just to say, it's kind of a statement on the world of the 616 where Canada is preferable with it being a dystopian hellscape. So how the tables turn.
Meanwhile, on a random street,
Home of the Fightin' Flowers. God, I've always wanted to say that.
This Linda lady who's being stalked by Nightcrawler returns home to a lovely bouquet of flowers with a note that says, "My darling." Who is this lady again?
Yes, this lady. According to my extensive knowledge of using the internet to look up information, this lady, in the timeline of the Age of Apocalypse, was married to one Nightcrawler.
Well, this is awkward.
Speaking of which, Iceman meets up with the mournful Wolverine on a rooftop to give him some tough love, a situation that no one expected or asked for.
Props to Bobby for representing, though. The team has been playing Clue, the X-Men edition, except as a LARP. And if you do not understand what I'm saying, neither do I. I did not write this. Thank you, Rick.
How does it feel now, huh? How does it feel?
I think what they're doing is walking around New York, finding instances where the evil elf is sneaking around. But it does not matter, because Logan is pensive, and even some of Bobby's better jokes aren't cracking through. By the way, who is Sasquatch, and why would Logan want to steal his chest hair?
Oh god, Jeff, do not get Tom started.
Matted, disgusting, orange.
And we're back to politics. Logan and Bobby head back to the building to meet up with the rest of his team. On the way, Bobby is trying to figure out why Logan is so upset at Nightcrawler. Sure, he killed a guy, but that would be a Wednesday afternoon for the legendary Wolverine.
The rest of the team are standing around, disappointed in the hotel room they're checking out. The minibar has already been pilfered and the robes have all already been taken.
And those were already taken by our fake Nightcrawler, our fake crawler, if you will. And you know that Remy LeBeau still stole something, so maybe he's the one who stole the ropes from the room before anybody noticed. Because, you know, once in the Thieves Guild, always in the Thieves Guild.
Why are you giving Chris accents?
The drunk bottles show that Nightcrawler is drowning his sorrows. Or he has been listening to Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom, and has been drinking every time Alpha Flight has made a bad decision or lost clothes.
Oh, did you just plug our show and mock us in the same sentence?
Maybe?
That's fine. www.thewhynotpod.com, folks.
Speaking of needling people, Bobby is not lit up on Logan. He is just pushing and pushing and pushing, kind of like a co-host who keeps giving you questionable comics to read and review.
Tell me about it, man. Sometimes I just want to slam my co-host against a wall and stick some knives under his chin.
Jeff, I think you're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud.
Oh, that was out loud? Oops.
Well, better out than in.
Well, Bobby gets the same treatment when he suggests that this out-of-reality Nightcrawler just wants a new life here, and Wolverine should be a little more understanding, or maybe Logan should talk to his team.
Gambit agrees. It's time for Logan to trust his team, and that is what leads everybody to this problem. Trust. And as the man said, who do you trust? Hubba, 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 money, 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 who do you trust?
What does 1989 Batman have to do with this?
Everything, Tom. Trust the process.
Tom, remember how I gave you the list of phrases we should watch out for? Well, that was one of them.
The scene moves to the lonely apartment with Vicky Vale.
Wait a second.
I mean, Linda, the object of this Joker. I mean fake Nightcrawler's attention.
And the gaslighting begins.
She's on the phone talking to a friend about this mysterious guy who is leaving her presents and romantic poems, and all the while, Kurt is hiding in the next room of the apartment, clutching the scarf that she was wearing earlier. Ew.
Then another player enters the game, a young Asian man named Bruce, who Linda is surprised to see. He is home early from a trip out of town and is obviously the man she had been talking about, not Kurt.
Ouch. To lose the imaginary relationship that you did not have with a woman because Bruce Lee shows up at the door? A tale as old as time.
Bruce Lee? And Linda? The name of Bruce Lee's wife? And he's wearing a jacket with a stripe on the arm? And he looks like... Oh, no. This is not Batman 89. This is like a twisted early scene from The Crow.
Tomato.
Kurt teleports to the roof with a...
Bamf.
And confesses his anger to a nearby cat, which may be a mutant on the X-Team who can even keep track. Then he exits with another...
Bamf.
And then Wolverine arrives, followed by the rest of the team. He chastises Swan for not possessing the moping mutant. Jeez, Wolverine, you're supposed to be the best there is and whatever. Why don't you just sneaky up and stab his tail to the roof or something?
I believe project managers call it delegating.
Worst PM ever. Oh, and speaking of prime ministers, this is being recorded days after Trudeau 2.0's resignation, and we at Why Not are very much trying to get him on the show. Because what the hell else has he got to do?
Write his memoirs?
Too soon?
Well, that is the sentiment shared with the rest of the team. They're all very resentful of Lynn, especially Northstar, who needs to go home and have some make-up sex.
Zon, Remy, and Bobby turns towards Jean-Paul and give him a look that is mostly, why the heck are you here on a roof with us when you could be at home, you dolt?
Wolverine lets the sex life of Northstar go over his short head and starts to finally open up and talk and apologize to a group of people who would rather hear more from Northstar. Wow, that's a line I never thought I would say.
Logan needed this imposter Nightcrawler to replace his friend who died, and it clouded his judgment. Now he has lost another Nightcrawler, and he will probably have to kill him.
Tom, you and I both understand this. We started podcasts with our friends. They turned into monsters, and now we have to kill them.
Jeff, you're not muted.
Oh, sorry. Autocorrect. What I meant to say was we need someone like the X-Men to be there to control Logan so he does not do something that he would later regret.
I don't know if that was better, but you know what? Thank you for validating my struggle.
Moving on, Nightcrawler has kicked New York's other two brooding acrobats, Spider-Man and Daredevil, off of the Empire State Building's spire so he can be all melancholy and emo.
You can hear the chords of The Cure playing as he whines about how he doesn't belong here, and the Linda here is not his Linda, and how this scarf he stole makes him look like a pervert.
Are you sure he's not listening to Radiohead? Because I gotta say...
Good catch.
He should really meet Marita. Just saying.
With a final mumble that he's coming home, he teleports off to somewhere, and then a dark tear appears in the sky, and a dark creature with sharp teeth starts to come through. Who is it? Or what is it? Well, we don't know and we don't care because it has nothing to do with Power Pack.
That's right. So let's go ahead and get to the cover of this issue and talk about the rest of the issue. Guys, what do you think about this beautiful, beautiful color? Who wants to describe it to our listeners?
Let's give it to Tom.
I knew that was going to happen. It is a digitally painted, actually really nice representation of Jean-Paul in his North Star regalia, which hasn't changed substantially from his early days with Alpha Flight, because when Jean Byrne nails it with a design, he nails it with a design. Although in this case, it has the X-Men insignia on the upper left pec, because we gotta draw attention to those beautiful pecs. His ears are possibly pointier than they've ever been. His eyes are shining an iridescent blue, and we have 3 bright red claw marks going across the cover as if to suggest that Northstar and Wolverine throw down the issue, which they absolutely do not. I'm not even sure they directly address each other at any point.
I think the cover would probably be just fine without those 3 marks. They add some texture to the cover, and it's kind of cool, but they have nothing to do with what's happening. It would make more sense if that was Nightcrawler and they've got the 3 claw marks going down.
Yeah.
And to be frank, they could have subbed out the coloring a little bit and altered the...
Oh.
Yeah.
100%.
They're not that dissimilar in look, North Star and Nightcrawler.
Just have to add a little more fangs to the teeth, change the color to blue, and yeah, bing, bang, boom, you got it. Throw a little pointed tail on there.
I just want to establish, on our show, we have made it clear that North Star's signature move is to use his super speed to run up behind someone and punch them in the back of the head.
It's a good move.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great move.
I want that to be my move, and I keep going to jail.
He first deployed it against Cyclops, and we decided that, of course, it only made sense to punch someone in the back of the head when they shoot force beams out the front of their head.
I'm sorry, I think they're lasers.
No,
not lasers.
they are force beams. There is no heat. There is only force. Ha ha!
No, I'm pretty sure they're lasers.
Not lasers.
Guys, I'm doing
They're
this.
not
I only
lasers.
do this to antagonize Rick.
Well, you're antagonizing to Chris, let me tell you.
I'm sorry,
Hey,
you
2 for 1, 2
antagonized
for
the
1.
wrong white dude with a beard on this podcast. I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to take up the antagonism that was meant for you.
I am now wearing my glasses, my official Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men glasses from their birthday party that says, they're not lasers.
Where were we?
Well, we were talking about this lovely cover. By the way, I should mention that this was drawn by Phil Noto. I do like the drawing. I think that it is really good.
I think it's actually a quite great cover, depiction of North Star. It's really fun to read things that aren't drawn by John Byrne. It's just like a welcome change of pace. And not that John Byrne's bad. It's just because he's not. It's just different.
Yeah.
Variety's the spice of life. And this looks like North Star. It looks like a really strong, great North Star.
Yeah, no, it's a great look.
Take away the Wolverine claw mark things or whatever that is. It does show that he's angry, and that is what this is about. It is about a real conundrum for him. He's trying to be a better person, and he's angry at the situation that he's in now. So it kind of fits in with what's going on, even though we never really see him in his outfit.
You know, I'm actually going to push back. I don't think it necessarily is angry per se, but there's almost like a pensive quality to it. And I will say that like throughout this issue, there are all these moments where the North Star that we've been reading about would have simply like told everyone to
A bunch of French words, yeah.
for a lot of French words, and then like taken his ball, or in this case his husband, and just like flown home, and wouldn't even have talked to Kyle about it. Like it would just like taken off and just, this is what we do, because it's a very different, but at the same time, like you can recognizably Jean Paul that's happening here. That's neat. It's fun. Chris loves the bad boy version of Jean Paul. So,
Let's get into that a bit more too, is because this is why we've got you guys on the show, is you guys are a lot more familiar right now with North Star. It's been a while since I've really read a lot of Alpha Flight, but I do remember, you know, the character, reading him a lot, seeing where he's been at, and I've read him in a lot of more recent X-Men comics where he's still arrogant, but he's not the beginning of Alpha Flight, Byrne era, angry, annoyed.
They replaced him with Dakan.
He is the very Canadian-French, I'm the best mutant in the world kind of thing.
On our show, our next episode is going to cover issues 23 and 24 of Alpha Flight, which puts us in the back half of 1985, which is, you might realize, a while ago. So, learning about North Star from the way that he started out and then dropping into, this was in 2013 when this came out, correct? Mm-hmm. And
yes,
so much later, has been amazing to see which portions of North Star move forward from where we were to where we are now. And I think it's great because he still has, I guess in the Marvel universe, if you're a speedster, part of your personality is to be a jerk because Quicksilver's, yeah, exactly. And also if you are part of a boy-girl pair of mutant twins, the boy is going to be a speedster.
Yes.
Because in Marvel, that is 100% true.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing too is, going off what you were saying, there was an issue of X Factor where Quicksilver was being interviewed or psychoanalyzed by Doc Samson, and he made the point of, the world basically is just too slow for me, which is really explains why speedsters are as arrogant as they are. It's everything moves too slow for them, and it's just there's an impatience that is already right there.
I actually brought that up in one of the early episodes of the show when we were first interacting with North Star. I was remarking on how similar he seemed to Quicksilver, so I made Chris recount that exact scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an archetypical scene for a speedster and for a speedster mutant, and just for this particular dynamic, it seems. And that's, I don't know, it's neat, right? It's also different shades. North Star and Quicksilver are not identical. They may have very similar quirks and very similar characteristics, but they express them in some very different ways.
It really helps that North Star is able to fly where Quicksilver cannot, because I'm sure that drives Quicksilver nuts.
Could you imagine if Quicksilver, of all people, could fly? He would be such a menace.
Oh, just the worst.
It would be terrible.
Yeah.
That said, we've seen him and discussed him running to the moon.
Yes.
So,
if you want to bring DC into this and think about the Flash,
I wouldn't want to bring DC into this.
I'm just saying that every time I think about the Flash is always one of those characters who, especially on TV shows, whenever I've seen him, they always show him as he's a superhero that just is happy to have these awesome powers. And it's almost refreshing to see sometimes. Where it's like, I just get to help people and run really fast, and that's so cool. And then you have Arrow and Batman brood.
Dower, the Dowers. Oh, Dower.
In the comics at different points, they've shown the Flash, specifically in the Wally version, showing up after a big battle and helping to fix the streets. Yeah. Because they recognize that, him running that fast absolutely destroyed the asphalt. Yeah. So he's, happy to help. I saved the day. Now I'm going to fix everything up. It's kind of weird, actually, but refreshing.
I just want to give a shout out to the Flash character Impulse, who was a 14-year-old hyper fast person from the future who grew up in a VR environment and then got sent back to live with whoever the Flash was at
It was Wally. This is Bart that was sent back. It was Impulse that was sent back.
Yeah, look, I was 14 years old and I thought this book was awesome. Okay, and it was the only DC book that I bought when I was 14, and I felt dirty for buying it, but I thought it was awesome.
Let me bring up something else that Tom wanted to talk about, and I think it's a good point. Tom, you put something in our notes here saying, is this the wildest sounding X-Men team ever? 2 people with broken French accents and Wolverine's Canadian flatness, Gambit's Cajun tilt, and Nightcrawler's German.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
I mean, look, the X-Men always have a really interesting mix of accents and just flavors and whatnot. You have 2 different very strange French accents combined with whatever the hell the Canadian Plains accent is. And then, as you point out, Nightcrawler's German, it's just...
Gambit's accent.
It just sounds like hell. It does not sound great.
And Bobby's are like, well, I'm just going to keep on talking because nobody else can understand anybody else, so...
Oh, my God.
And I'm Translation Man.
Anybody need their accounting done?
Doug Ramsey was in this book?
That's right.
So, the reason we are covering this is because there is a picture of Power Pack. Anybody want to fight me on this?
Nope, there is. Well, there's a picture of Alex Power in the Future Foundation with his Future Foundation friends.
Yeah.
Very first panel, very first thing you will see as you scan across the first...
Yeah.
Second panel? What was it?
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, we're not going to fight you on anything because that happening is why we're on here. So, hey, awesome. Totally justifies everything.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, you're always right.
Don't do this to me, man.
See, it's about time somebody said that. And
don't do this.
As being the editor, Tom, thank you.
My question is, how did you find this picture of Power Pack to know to cover this episode?
Tell him how you found it, because it will make my life worse.
Well,
we sacrifice goats.
There is this fantastic thing that I found called fandom.com. Fandom.com, if you go into the Marvel section of that and you go into a team, it will list out every appearance of that team. And if you go into individual characters, it will show you every actual appearance of those characters. I'm not going to tell you how long I spent going through that and how I developed my database, but it is extensive.
As the research monster for our show, I have to tell you, I have similarly found lists of that for Alpha Flight, but I have found them to be woefully inadequate.
Well, because it's Alpha Flight.
Shut up, Tom.
It's a starting point.
And requiring a lot of me poking around more and finding other resources. So
it's a starting point, and then you ask other people who might have more things, and you share the notes.
I guess that leads us to talk about Northstar's illegal citizenship, aka let's talk politics.
Do we have to?
Nope.
Leaving aside the current politics or all that stuff, it is interesting, to say the least, that, first of all, how petty do you have to be to go after a superhero for this?
Mm-hmm.
It is 2013, and it's probably more about the gay issue than the actual immigration issue, but wow.
I could also see, though, a prosecutor finding, like, their one in on going after a superhero. Like, someone who really just hates the vigilante aspect of superheroism and being like, this is how I can get one of them.
I always think back to sometime like 2017 or 18, something like that. A guy we went to high school with whose parents came over from Korea. After high school, he went, joined the military, did his time in the military, got out, and got into some trouble with the law. And they're like, you know that you aren't actually a citizen of the United States? And he got put into the immigration center, and they were working on trying to deport him. And me and a bunch of my friends did a letter writing campaign and helped him get some legal representation and got him out of it. But once again, it's like, here's somebody who did good things and who has lived here all of his life and does not speak the language of the country that he originally came from, doesn't have any kind of resources over there or anything else, and they're trying to get him out of the country.
Well, I mean, it's that Kafka-esque element, right? Like,
Yeah.
once you fall into the gears of the system only knows how to grind its gear. Like, it only knows how to move a certain way. So once you're ensnared in that, good luck, man. You need help. And you need a little bit of providence to make it actually through that sort of situation.
And when you're looking at somebody like Northstar, he's rich, he's popular, he's well known, he's a mutant. And he's from Canada. It's not like he's lived over the United States. It's not like it's a different language or anything like that.
Well, he would claim it is, but
Yeah. But yes, he's got a life set up here, but it's also one of those things of, here's somebody who could be able to weather this situation. He's not going to like it. It's not fair. There's a whole lot of things that are wrong about it, but he's got money and resources where this isn't going to be that much of a problem for him. You start looking at other people who don't have the resources, the money, the influence, or anything else that this mutant superhero's got, and you start to see how bad this really is.
yeah, absolutely. I will also suggest that Jennifer was the wrong lawyer to hire because she's a little too clean, shall we say?
I'm having a hard time with this. What other superhero lawyer would he hire?
Oh, hold on. The thing that Northstar needs a lawyer for has nothing to do with him being a superhero.
Wait, the Thing is a lawyer?
Yeah, you
Thank
know,
you.
I got a lot of free time, so Ben Grimm, lawyer at large.
I've been finishing up at night school like Lenny Bruce.
Going through that in my head. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah. Got my offices on Yancey Street, over by my Aunt Petunia's place.
Anyway, what Northstar's problem is has nothing to do with being a superhero. It is a very quotidian, problem for a person who comes from the greater populated Canadian area over in New York. Tom, you and I have discussed on our podcast how frequently both Alpha Flight and the X-Men will go across the border and stage international
Incidents?
Invasions is the word I was looking for.
Incursions.
No, invasion, definitely. When you send a superpowered person, it's an invasion, not an
There are
incursion.
more I words we can add after international. Let's keep going. I'm sure we got more.
We've talked about how porous the border is there. It's actually kind of refreshing to see Northstar have to face some repercussions, not because he's Northstar, but just for any superhero to have to face repercussions for treating the world like their playground.
2 points. One, it is because it's Northstar
Yeah.
that you're enjoying this in particular.
No,
Second,
no. It is because it is Northstar that the government is doing this, but that does not mean that's why I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tom. You bigot.
I will give you that. The second point is, yeah, there is actually another superhero lawyer that he should have hired that is very familiar with these sorts of down in the muck, figure it out cases, and it's Daredevil. And Daredevil would have been a much better choice over Jennifer, who is much more of a corporate lawyer, and apparently a corporate lawyer that doesn't know how to deploy all the means of money. Whereas Matt would have absolutely figured out any number of ways to just screw around and make this not worth the prosecution's time.
I always see him more as a street level lawyer dealing with more of the thugs and those kinds of things. But this is a deportation, and I would say this is international law, which I don't know how much Matt has actually studied.
A, I don't think you need to have studied it, but B, like the street level crime that
Matt's skill is in how much difficulty he can bring to the prosecution's case. That's what Matt does. He throws sand in the gears until the innocent person gets let out of the problems. That's what Matt does, and that's what Jean-Paul needs.
Also, when you're talking about dealing with street level crime and whatnot, Matt Murdock is absolutely dealing with deportation cases. He is absolutely dealing with folks who are being caught up in something and they're being accused of being part of this gang, that gang, whatever. And that's being used as a pretext to deport them, whether it's true or not. So Matt Murdock, I will say, probably has more experience dealing with immigration court than Jennifer Walters and her mergers and acquisitions that ever has.
Okay, fine, I will grant you that, but I'm going to tell you one irrefutable fact why Matt Murdock can't be the lawyer that Jean-Paul goes to. Because Matt Murdock, Daredevil, was not on a team with Alex Power, and we would not be covering this issue.
You are 100% correct, and there is nothing I can bring to this case that will make this different. And so, Tom, stop trying.
No. What's breaking my brain here is this idea that this is pre-written and that we're just playing out our role in the comic that's being written about the comic that's been written that we're discussing. And you know what? I made peace with the simulation bit. I did not make peace with the simulation being a comic book. So don't do this, Rick. For the love of God, don't do this.
This is what we do. We go into comic book shops and we lean on the glass countertop and say, in issue number blah, blah, blah of this version of the comic book, they said this. And you also have to be, whether you wear glasses or not, you have to push the glasses up off your nose to make sure you're making your point.
Jeff and I do that all the time just because, we want to emphasize the fact that we don't have glasses.
Jeff carries around glasses without...
I do actually wear glasses. I just usually don't.
Yeah. He just
Jeff.
I live a secret life. I'm nearsighted, but I don't wear my glasses on.
Yeah, I have better than 20/20
night driving
vision.
and watching movies.
So a couple of months ago, I went into my local comic shop, which is actually more of a gaming shop where you get to rent time to play Magic the Gathering. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I stopped in there to get my daughter set up with a subscription to Scooby-Doo and Friends or whatever, and it was Scooby-Doo Team Up, and get her a comic book that comes in regularly and get her in the habit of going in there. And while the guy is getting me all set up, I mentioned to him, hey, man, so my buddy and I are starting this podcast about Alpha Flight. And the guy behind the counter, it's him and it's his buddy sitting on the other side of the counter reading the solicitations. You guys know the dynamic I'm talking about. And the guy behind the counter looks up at me with this expression of anger and confusion and frustration. Meanwhile, his buddy on the civilian side of the counter starts nodding his head and turns toward me and says, yeah, man, I get it. And I thought, oh God, I wish I had a video of this because those are the two responses to an Alpha Flight podcast. Anger and hostility and absolute understanding. That's the only way that you can respond to this.
When I go to comic book cons and I talk to creators and I mention that I do a podcast and I hand them one of our beer coasters with our podcast on it, they look at it for a while and say, Power Pack? Really? How many episodes have you done? 170? Really? It's more confusion that we get from ours.
I gotta be honest, that was pretty much my response to that, was looking you guys up and being like, oh my God, they've done this many episodes about Power Pack?
Yeah, 6 years plus Patreons.
These guys are legit.
Bonus episodes, guesting, interviews.
They know what they're doing? They are experts.
No. Let's go back a second. We do not know what we're doing. We just have nothing better to do.
Chris told me
Costumes at a barn, man. That's what we're doing. Putting on a show at our uncle's barn.
Chris told me about a month and a half ago that we're probably going to do Alpha Flight through, like, finish off volume 1 and then maybe pivot to something else. Maybe he finds whatever. We'll figure it out moving forward. But he told me that we'll finish up volume 1 of Alpha Flight somewhere around April of 2026. And I died a little bit inside. I knew that, like, the next 20 plus months of my life are devoted to Alpha Flight, and the Mantlo era that he's been warning me about
and you've
is about
already
to
read
hit.
the best issues that they're going to publish.
You know,
The cool thing that we've got going for us, though, and this will bring us back to this issue, is that we get to read random issues of comic books that
Yep.
maybe we've read them, maybe we haven't read them, and we kind of dip in and we're like, we've got an Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler that's bouncing around, was a counterfeiting that he was actually on this team. He's now killed somebody in a stalking lady that he was married to in the Age of Apocalypse.
Which was not mentioned in the original Age of Apocalypse, thank you very much, as an old school X-Men nerd.
But the thing is, was that, well, I mean, they've also gone back and back to the Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, they have. So, I mean, they've picked it up in one of the many things. We've actually touched through Age of Apocalypse a few times, I think, now.
Yep, with some Dark Beast stuff.
Why would Nightcrawler marry a woman named Linda? I mean, honestly.
Because she works in HR. I want to see who gets this reference.
Okay, definitely Nightcrawler would want a friend in HR because Nightcrawler is, of all the X-Men, the X-Man who is going to violate HR the most.
well, especially the Age of Apocalypse one. No, I almost have it, but I don't.
The other interesting thing about this, too, is the little trick they did with it. Anyways, it's Linda, and the Linda here is got a fiance, husband, whatever significant other, whose name is Bruce, and they made it look like Bruce Lee, so Bruce Lee and Linda.
Oh, my wife just bought one of those Bruce Lee clocks with his leg that goes around like the minute hand, you know?
Yep, yeah.
It just arrived today. Look at that. It's like synergy, Rick.
All right. Let's get to our final thoughts. Let's talk about our gallery of greatness. Guys, we are out on the wonderful rooftops in New York City. We're going to staple these to the tar that's melting in the hot New York sun or something. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about some art in this book that we thought was funny. Everybody's got a good top joke one that they've got. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and tell me what your top joke one is, sir?
My joke panel is on page 5, and I call it A Tale of Two Yogas. And this is when they're at the yoga studio and they're talking, and you've got Kyle, who is doing, I don't know what the move is called, but he's levitating himself off the floor with his hands. His buddy, she's just she's taking a seat. She's just sat down and kind of taking a break.
Hey, Dr. Cecilia Reyes is a fantastic addition to the X-Men that has been criminally underused. Moving on.
I just love the aspect that she's just kind of like, she's taking a break. They're talking, and he's doing good yoga. She's like, yeah, I'm on a pad. We're good.
Yeah, so Kyle is like, check out my sweet moves and my awesome muscles. And Celia Reyes, who's an X-Men, is like, yeah, I don't need to really work out or anything. I just am awesome.
It's actually the very first panel.
Mm-hmm.
North Star is sitting across the desk from his lawyer, who we're about to...
Grumpily.
Very grumpily, because, I mean, that's actually the most North Star he's looked in this entire
That's
issue.
how he exists.
But
Yes.
this is the exact same panel that justifies us talking about this issue in the first place. But on the far right, you'll notice that on her screen, she has a whole lot of, like, appears to be words and whatnot. And then the Canadian flag for like, taking up a solid 6 of the screen is the Canadian flag. As if you're looking up a Canadian citizen, it needs to be front and center. Oh, by the way, Canada. Like, it's just a little... That's not how databases or computer systems work. But hey, we now know that North Star, who ostensibly has been established throughout this series as being Canadian, is 100% Canadian, which is also a joke because, or at least a sick joke, because that man would find that so insulting. And I love that.
I got to say that this was actually my favorite artwork in the entire thing, because I actually like the two pictures of the Future Foundation, and
they're not mutually exclusive. Like, it is a good joke, and it's also it's a beautiful tableau.
I completely focused on that and kept looking at the Hulk mug, which is just like 3/4 of the Hulk's face. So you've got like just the Hulk's teeth at the bottom, and it looks ridiculous as a mug.
Oh my God, I miss the Hulk mug.
Is an awesome mug.
But here's the thing is that I was looking at that side and I completely missed the Canadian flag over there.
Yeah,
and you just pulled that up and I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
Chris, this is what you've done to me. I missed the Hulk mug and focused on the Canadian flag.
I love you, my bruv.
I built you a podcast, and this is what you did to me.
All right, I have figured out what my best art for the issue is, and that comes on page 13, and it is when Zwan is looking at the empty bottles from the minibar that fake Crawler has been drinking, and I actually stopped and I counted, and I was like, oh, there's 10 mini bottles. Oh. Like, I will absolutely give anyone up to 4 mini bottles for what they're dealing with. 10 mini bottles is really remarkable in a way that the issue remarks upon them. You know what I mean?
It is impressive that he is able to teleport straight.
He should be wobbling over the line and, like, half fusing with buildings.
He should be forgetting his clothes while he teleports, okay?
This is going to be terrible, but it's not BAMF, it's BAMF. It's like, it sounds terrible.
Well, they also do say that he was teleporting around just in a towel. So...
Since we're here, on the next page we have my top joke one, and it's the one where Wolverine is popping his claws at Bobby because he's angry at him.
Oh, who's icing up?
And Bobby's half icing up, and my comment to that one was, you should see what else froze when he did that, because Bobby's hair is freezing up, Bobby is scared, and I am guessing that he may have a little bit of yellow snow.
It was cold!
Thank you, George.
I'm glad someone got that, Jeff. Thank you.
It's shrinkage, Jerry!
So since we are, like, completely off this, just whatever,
rails.
Is there anything else in the Gallery of Greatness, good or jokes, or anything else that people want to bring up that we haven't brought up yet?
Mine is on page 2. I call it Flyaway. It's the bottom right-hand panel. It's when Joan Paul walks out of the office.
Joan Paul? That is a new and different way of mispronouncing that name. Joan Paul is his twin sister, thank you very much.
Nailed it. He walks out of the building that She-Hulk resides in and walks out of the street and then just flies away. And I love that because it's so... It would happen in a superhero world like that, where people are just wandering around and then somebody... And he's wearing normal clothes. He looks really great, but he's just kind of like walks out. He's like, well, I'm my own cab.
I do like the looks on the... And I agree, the artwork is not great, but I do like the people's faces, like, looking up just,
Man just flew. I believe a man could fly.
I will say this actually, like, as people who've spent entirely too much time reading Alpha Flight, will say that, like, the fact that Jean-Paul is taking to the air in that manner and he just doesn't disappear, like he doesn't just puff of smoke, really actually plays up that he's in a state. In a normal situation, Jean-Paul doesn't just your camera couldn't catch him taking off. He'd just be gone. So for him to actually be moving in a way that people can see is really illustrative of where he's at mentally, and that's actually pretty great.
Along with the fact he's walking slowly out of the building.
Yep.
The way that he flies out of there is his version of walking. Yeah. It is very slow and trudging because we would not see him if he wasn't.
Yeah.
And dreading what's coming next. I will say that I do have a panel that I think is pretty great. When Jean-Paul and Kyle are in the park, in the tree, the final panel on the right-hand page, the bottom one, where they're both just sitting up there, Kyle wishing things were different, Jean-Paul pushing back on it, but they're just sitting in this tree, these dark silhouettes almost, with a little more detail than a silhouette, but looking out from Central Park into Manhattan. It's really lovely. The tree work, the branches, it's an impressive layout. It's an impressive tableau. I think I've used that word twice now. It kind of sums up the immensity of their problem, but it's the two of them together in this one space it's a space that's impossible for anyone else to be in, which is also true of anyone who's in this situation. right? Like, it's always unique. It's always crappy. It's always hard. But they're together and they're talking. That's the impressive part for me.
It's also a bit of they're alone, a bit of loneliness, a bit of isolation. They're not the only people going through this, but sure, right then it does feel like they're the only people that are going through this, and they have to go through it together.
Well, I will also point out that in the past, Jean-Paul has been party to attempts to reclaim people that have gone, let's say, poorly for the government. To the actions of other superpowered beings. I don't know. It has to be in the back of his head that if he really said, nah, I'm good, and the X-Men said, nah, he's good, that someone other than him would blink.
Yeah.
Also, Jean-Paul is familiar with how the Canadian government in the 616 deals with superpowered people. And Jean-Paul is not interested in going back to being under the power of Department H and the Canadian government in the 616. And I think the fact that that goes unstated is important because most people don't realize how truly horrific Department H has been to its people. Jean-Paul has mostly avoided the worst of that compared to many other Alpha Flight members, Heather and Puck, and I'll say Sasquatch, even though if you've read Volume 2, you know why that doesn't work.
And if you want to hear more about Department H's atrocities, please do tune in to Why Not? Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom, your happy-go-lucky journey through the dystopian hellscape that is Canada and the Marvel 616.
I'd like to say really quickly, that's going to be another $5 you owe us for advertising on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll pay it. It's fine.
Let's move on to our rubber and glue moment. What was the best or most childish insult? Because stuff that I'm sure I'm going to be cutting out, we've gone to insulting each other now. So let's find where the good insults in this book are. I'll go ahead and start off here because I want to make sure that you guys understand the assignment now that we've given it to you. My top one is Jennifer said to Jean-Paul, lawyers aren't magicians, Jean-Paul, and the law doesn't care that I'm green and gorgeous and you're not. There's a lot that I think that she's trying to say there. I don't think that she could say that he is not gorgeous. I'm not sure where she was going there, but there was an insult there.
I love it. I think everything about it is perfect and exactly in character for Jennifer.
So did you guys find any good childish insults in the book? And I'll just throw it out there for the wolves to yell out. So who wants to go?
I could go next. Mine is on page 11, and it is when Bobby and Wolverine are walking down a staircase talking about Kurt Wagner. Bobby's all, I thought he was one of the good ones. And Wolverine's like, I told you, he killed a man. Shouldn't that be enough for you? Bobby's response, yeah, I guess, but it's not usually enough for you. No offense, but your moral compass isn't always attuned to true north, you know? And I just dug on that because it's like, yeah, he killed a guy, but come on, Wolvie, you are like kill man guy.
Yeah.
Why would this bug you?
Killman guy is a great way of describing Wolverine of this
He's
era.
the best he is at what he does.
It's on his business cards.
Killman guy.
Logan, Killman guy.
It's like One Punch Man, Killman guy.
Yeah, well,
I'm getting back into One Punch Man. Love One Punch Man.
One Punch Man's pretty great. I will say that similar pages, actually, when Bobby's just dragging Logan and throws out and nerve gas kittens. That specific line is all right, we get it. You're just trying to piss him off at this point.
Yeah, poke. Yeah.
Poke. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Nerve gas kittens. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
I will back it up just a couple of pages from there when Bobby tells Wolverine, hello, Earth to Logan. Sasquatch is calling. He wants his hairy chest back.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I literally didn't choose that one because I did not want to bring him up again. I
get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
For Rick and Jeff's listeners, Tom does not like the character of Sasquatch, a.k.a. Secret Agent Superhero Dr. Walter Langowski.
You missed linebacker.
Oh, Secret Agent Superhero Linebacker Dr. Walter Langowski. Thank you. Pick it up from here.
You also, by the way, pronounced the name correctly, as far as I'm concerned.
Langowski.
No, you didn't say the Wachowski. You said Langowski.
You say as you drink your beer. Moving on.
We have definitely got the rubber and glue moments here, especially between each other. Let's go to the Parent of the Year, the Reed Richards Award for Good Parenting. And this, of course, is the award we give for the best or worst parenting, whatever you can find in this book. I know, Tom, you put something in here that you're having trouble finding the good parenting or bad parent. I can help you out here with my choice. My choice was the lady in the park who had her kid who was pulling on Nightcrawler's tail. Yeah, and I said, you've got a leash on your child, and you're a bigot. So I'm going to go ahead and say that you're a pretty bad parent.
I will note for the listeners that the script says Reed Richards Award for Good Parenting, and I recognize that it's an award for good and bad parenting, but going off the script, I was being directed certain ways and tunnel visioned. I was going to say Gambit because of everyone on that team, he's the one that's trying to engage with Logan. He's the one that's trying to keep things moving. Yeah. And when push comes to shove, he's like, well, dude, what do you want us to do here? We are a team. We're supposed to be working together. He's the one that's actually addressing the elephant in the room. He's not doing the Bobby Drake, I'm going to poke you until you notice me and lash out. He's, for Gambit, measured and attempting to parent this whole situation.
It is so weird to see Gambit being mature and emotionally receptive and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, a lot of stuff has happened in the last 10 years to Gambit.
I would argue that Gambit's always been that. He just doesn't choose to exhibit it. Gambit.
Fair enough.
Gambit gets it.
And to be fair, Gambit has always, I always think about his first introduction when he met Storm when she was reverted to a child. He was actually a very good parent. He has always treated the kids on the team very, very well.
You want to see Gambit go off? Threaten a child.
Yeah.
Gets pretty ugly pretty fast.
Chris, tell me about who your choice is for Parent of the Year.
I don't want to double dip, but I'm going to say Iceman, Bobby Drake.
Okay.
He tries to get Wolverine to explain what's going on. He's trying to pull out some of that emotional stuff from Wolverine in a way that the people who care about Wolverine need to know about. I think that Bobby is doing the best he can, but Bobby is limited. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Use your words, not your claws.
I'm sorry, Tom. I thought that I was using my words. But if you need more, Professor Tom...
I was talking about Bobby. Thank you very much.
Hence the reason he said use your words, not your claws. Chris, do you have a mutation you want to reveal to us? Do we need to
no,
out you to the Sentinel program?
I don't think the government needs to know that I'm a mutant right now in the year of our Lord 2025.
The government doesn't need to know much about any of us right now.
Hey, I haven't done my parent yet. I will do it quick and fast. I did She-Hulk. And I'm going to go for good parent because she was being helpful to Jean Paul. She was Joan Paul.
Oh, Jan
Paul. J-Pop man.
Okay, so Jeff is done talking now because he can't speak words right. But we'll go on to most popular and shunned. Identify the character who's the best and worst in this issue.
He will be known.
And I'm going to have all this over talking that I will just keep in there because it's fun.
Don't silence Jeff. He's changed me. Moving forward, North Star, when we use his Christian name, is just J-Pop. And that's just what it is from now on.
J-Paul. That's his name.
No, J-Pop. J-Paul is too close to a certain other Paul. He's just J-Pop from here on out.
So the best person in this issue, I'm going to go with the best one on this issue because we were just talking about him a while ago before I cut out a bunch of other stuff. But Bobby. Bobby is my best in this issue because he was pushing the baddest dog on the block and for all the right reasons. He may not have done it well, but I think he did a pretty good job.
I fully agree with that. He's being the unrelenting teammate, little brother.
Mm-hmm.
From jump, Bobby kind of fits into that little brother role, whether he's a team leader or not. Right. That's just sort of he actually utilizes the little brother role as a team leader in certain instances. It works for him. It's who he is at his core, and he absolutely deploys it to the correct effect on Wolverine, on Logan, who is holding back and holding on his team. And that only ever gets X-Men killed when someone's not being upfront. So Bobby crushed it this one, I think.
Anybody else have Bobby on their best of list?
I did.
Hey, 3 out of 4. That ain't bad.
So, Jeff, what's your argument here for someone who is not Bobby to be the best.
Bobby was great. There were several people that were really great. I'm actually going for North Star because he was being very responsible with his problems.
Unacceptable.
He was having deportation issues. He went to go see a lawyer. He actually paid money to a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
He was upset with the response. He was then trying to...
And funny money.
He was then...
He exchanged it first, maybe.
He was then...
Hey, he didn't try to use Krakoan money. It's not a thing yet.
Which are like walnuts or something.
Fair. It was. But they were magic walnuts.
Yeah. So he was talking to a lawyer. He was trying to resolve his issues. He was trying to do it legally. He was talking to his husband. He was kind of explain his feelings. He was doing really good on all of that. And then also when he's in like a team up of people that really are just kind of flailing around, he's like, I kind of wanted to just go back with my husband so I can have some makeup time with him.
Yeah.
It's just like everything about him, I had no problems with him. He was upset, but he wasn't being childish or pedantic or anything. He's just like, I have a problem. Why won't anybody try and help me fix this?
Yeah.
I will talk to my loved ones.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Chris jump in after me, but I'm just simply going to say this is the healthiest version of North Star I've encountered to date.
Yeah.
Yes, I fully agree. And that's why I want to acknowledge it because,
No, that's good.
again, this is the healthiest North Star that I've ever seen as well.
I mean, I had to go to another podcast to encounter it, but here we are.
Tom, if you want to enjoy Alpha Flight, get on over here, man. It's hugs and good times and campfires and kumbayas. We can talk Alpha Flight. It'll be a happy, fun time.
We don't really cross over the Alpha Flight again. Chris, what do you got?
Look, none of us are who we were when we were 20 years old, or 22, or 24, or 26.
This is a Marvel timescale. This was 2 months ago that he was on Alpha Flight.
Yeah, it was 2 months ago that Alpha Flight number 18 happened. Yeah, I absolutely
Sliding
believe
scale,
that.
baby. Sliding scale.
I appreciate North Star being allowed the grace to be able to grow up and be something other than what he was before. And since Tom and I, like I said, are back in like Alpha Flight issue number 24 is our next episode coming out, it's really nice to see that North Star grows up. And grows up in a way that we find emotionally satisfying and also emotionally resonant with the character that we know from the early times. And I think that works out really well. And not being as familiar with modern Alpha Flight or Alpha Flight member appearances as I am with the Bronze Age, Plastic Age appearances, it's really nice to know that some of these characters move forward and continue to get more development and become grown-up characters who live real lives instead of John Byrne-driven soap opera lives.
Yeah.
And just a quick note, based on production schedules, our next episode is actually going to hit before this episode hits. So if you're listening to this now, jump back like 2 weeks. 3 weeks to find that episode. Maybe we talk about this. We'll see. Maybe we spoil a few things. We won't, but maybe we will.
Well, before we move on to the worst character in this issue, I just need to tell you that we're up to about $20 in advertising fees that you'll pay us later. Does anybody have somebody for their worst in this issue?
Yeah, I got one. I think Wolverine's the worst in this issue.
I'm with you on that one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fast.
I think it's mostly because it's out of character.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think he's being a weird loner, like the wrong kind of loner for him.
He's being a Wolverine prior to X-Men 140.
Right, like he's being like an Alpha Flight era Wolverine. Yeah. He functionally, these are all people that he's got relationships with, that he's worked with, that he's a part of a team with. Mm-hmm. And in general, that version of Wolverine doesn't just hold back. But this is what he's doing. Frankly, he's being an emo version of Wolverine, and that is not what Wolverine does, largely speaking. Mm-hmm. So I think Wolverine's the worst character in this issue. My
comment was, dude, talk to your friends. That's just it.
It's the whole reason he's part of the X-Men. It's the whole reason why he bounced from Alpha Flight. Hell, he left his best friends in Alpha Flight to go find a level of freedom and made friends. Yeah. So for him to actually like hold this sort of thing in, not talk to Gambit of all people.
Yeah. Let's get into the top grades. We like to evaluate all the issues that we have done against all the other issues with a member of Power Pack in them.
Yeah, I'm going to leave this up to you because I have not read the amount of Power Pack that you have, so I don't know that Tom and I are really equipped to be able to contribute to this.
Oh, yeah, you are. Yes, you are.
Are you up on your Avengers Academy or Fantastic Four or Future Foundation or Loners or Darkhawk?
I'm good on Future Foundation too and Fan 4 to a point.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you think this is a good issue or not?
I think this was a good issue. I don't think this is an issue that particularly shows what Power Pack brings to the 616.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking. We just look at the issues alone.
Oh.
This issue had a lot of soap opera, which as John Byrne fans, we are all about. Interpersonal, this, that, and the other. But there was a lot going on. If I was buying this monthly, I would kind of wonder why I was buying.
Honestly, this feels like a bit of a placeholder issue to get us from A to B. It's sort of that breadth in between. And it's well done for all that, but it's not like it's a stellar version of that sort of issue to me.
Yeah.
To call it workmanlike is underselling it, but it's like in that galaxy of issue for me.
It is a moving from A to B issue, and that doesn't make it bad. It just means that there's more interpersonal stuff going on than plot stuff. And if you're not really invested in those characters who are interpersonally involved here, and having Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler being interpersonally involved with some woman named Linda, who was not ever mentioned in the original Age of Apocalypse for people like me.
Man, you're just not going to let that go.
Shuddy. So for people like me who read the original Age of Apocalypse and thought that Nightcrawler was really cool, to have this Linda woman grafted onto that, I assume there was explanation leading up to this within the Astonishing X-Men book, but that felt not so cool to me, you know?
Well, so here's my question, and maybe this is a good way to frame it. Where would you guys place it? Like, what range would you put it in such that we can, like Chris and I can look at the list and kind of, like, read your descriptions and see where we would slot it almost blind, just going off your descriptions.
From looking at our list, I started looking around for where do we have some issues where we had in-between storylines that were just moving us from point A to point B. Good, but not earth-shattering type of thing. I started getting around the 29-30 area.
Wow, that high.
You're doing better than I am. I'm looking at it around 43.
Okay.
City of the Dead. Girls Get High while the boys disappoint a god.
That's really funny. I was hanging on the 50s, assuming that's where you were going to be, but cool. That's fine. My God, what have you read? Like, what are you guys doing?
Who hurt you?
This was Fantastic Four. This was... Because I'm thinking, this has got people coming together that aren't always together. There's also disappointment going on. A midline moving things story.
Spot number 43, we have Fantastic Four 608, City of the Dead. That's the issue that the girls get high while the boys disappoint a god.
Okay, I know. I'm reading these descriptions. This is incredible. The fact that you have Finesse kills Jeremy and Julie punches a rocket. Sandwiched between Reptile tricks his friends into being lunch for Hybrid and the girls get high while the boys disappoint a god. Like, what is happening here, guys? Like,
they're really good summations, though, because they do make me go, oh, I know what this is.
The girls get high? That would be Sir Richard's Storm and Shuri, Black Panther's sister.
In Wakanda, taking a special herb so that way they can go and fight Anubis.
Yeah.
I just pulled my headphones back on, and you guys are talking about all the girls getting high. You know what? I don't want an explanation. I just want you to keep going.
There is some crazy stuff out there, my friend. All right, we got Avengers Academy 34, Avengers Academy 24. Yes, probably somewhere in there. Do you think that's a good spot there, Jeff?
So you're thinking between 40 and 41?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I could do that. I would be all right with that.
Avengers Academy 34, that's where powers are taken when they trust the bad guy. Yeah. And then Adventures Academy 24, Reptile tricks his friends into being launched for hybrid. Yeah.
So what number are you looking at putting this in? Because I can see your rubric here as to your ordering, and I have some questions. So what number is this going to fall in?
This will be the new number 41.
Oh, so this is better than Marvel Holiday Special 2007 number 1 Secret Santa, which is currently listed at number 45.
The Loner's Secret Santa.
The Loners have a Secret Santa. Yeah, it's better than that. Trust me.
I think it's 6 pages, and it's actually really touching. It's really good.
But it's still better.
Why is it better? Is it because of length?
It's touching, but I think that this issue actually goes into some more depth about things. It's got some length on its side, which is one thing. But I think that all in all, most of the time you got an issue of a comic that is going to be a lot better than a 6-7 page insert into a holiday special, especially one that's dealing with the loners.
That's fair.
I'm not going to fault you on that.
Let's go ahead and talk about beer, and then give our final thoughts on beer. What do we think about the beer that we...
Zwickel's fantastic, and I like drinking beer. Is that what you're looking for?
Tom, do you have anything to say?
I've enjoyed my beer this evening. It's a winter white ale, so it's a little bit on the sweeter side, kind of light. Some interesting notes on the back of the throat, but yeah, good. Works. Solid. I actually was initially planning to do the La Fin du Monde.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the stores around me didn't have it. So I was like, well, any port in a storm, I suppose. Oh, a ski house. There we go. So here we are.
Well, we do Powerballs 1 through 5 for our rating, and you can do halves. How many... what's an Alpha Flight thing? How many...
Maple leaves, yeah.
Maple trees. How many maple leaves would you give this?
For this time of year, I'm going to give it a solid 3.5. Any other time of year, I would say it's probably about a 2. It has like nice warming quality for this time of year. You know?
Okay.
And that matters for what you're drinking based on seasonality.
I can drink anytime.
For the Zwickel from the Urban Chestnut Brewing Company, I would give it a 4 maple leaves. It is perfectly adequate in any situation. It is never going to be the best you can pick, but it is definitely far away from the worst that you can pick.
You're going to give adequate a 4 out of 5?
Shuddy, my friend.
Jeff, what are you thinking about this Kettle House?
I am really enjoying it. I'm not sure if it's a headache beer for me or not, but I am forming a little bit of a headache. It's tasty. I would drink a bunch of these. My glass, I had to ration it for the last half hour, because I was like, I'm just drinking this, and I have just the tiniest little bit left for the taste. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, but I gotta say that this is easy to drink. It's very easy to drink.
It is very easy to drink.
There's a reason why I like this one. This one, I'm giving this a 4.5. It probably could be a 5, too. It really should probably be a 5. I'll give it a 4.5, though. This is... If I go to Montana, since it's the only place I can find it, I am getting this again and again and again. It is good. It is easy. It is simple. And if this is their just table beer, God bless them. Really.
It's worth it. For me, it's a good strong 4. I am really enjoying it. I would definitely drink it again. I have things that I prefer more, but I am enjoying it. I totally understand your 4.5. But a 5 for me and most everyone else is Kids' Perspective. And that's when Rick talks to his 14-year-old daughter, Carrie, about the issue that we just covered. So Rick and Carrie, take it away.
Hello, Carrie.
Hello, Daddy.
Are you ready to talk about some X-Men?
Sure.
All right. First question. Why are we reading this book?
It actually took me a while to figure that out. I was like, I read the whole book and I was so confused. I was like, okay. I read the whole book and I was like, that was not that bad. And then I started to really think, and I was like, wait a minute, this has to have a member of Power Pack in it. And so I looked at every panel, and it was, of course, the first one. So it took me forever to find, but then I realized how plain and clear it was. So yeah.
Why would Jennifer Walters, the sensational She-Hulk, have a picture of the Future Foundation on her desk?
Because she's part of it. Well, yeah, sort of, mostly.
Yeah, she's part of the Fantastic Four right now, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of cute that she has that there. It's like these are my students.
Did you see what else she has on her desk there?
She also has a picture of the new Fantastic Four.
What else was on there? Don't look. From memory, what else was on that desk?
I don't remember. I only looked at the photos.
Okay, look at the photos. Look at the picture again then.
Jeez. Oh, there's a Hulk mug.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe I didn't notice that before. It's so green.
And then look at the other side of the desk on the computer because she's talking to North Star.
A Canadian.
Yeah.
There's a Canada
Yeah.
flag of Canada.
So what does she know about North Star?
He's Canadian.
There we go. That's it.
I didn't notice that until, like, I read the second time. The second time's when you find all the details. I'll tell you now.
All right. So what did you think about this? You really haven't read any X-Men books from this time period. You don't have any real understanding of most of the characters, probably. How did you like it? If you picked this book up kind of like you did, without knowing much, what was your takeaways from it?
It was interesting. It's definitely being plopped down into something that I didn't really know what was happening, to be honest. But then I figured it out because of the context they gave. Still didn't, like, completely fill it in, but it filled in, I think, everything that was important to know.
Okay. There's two main storylines. Tell me a little bit about the North Star one. What's that deal about?
He's like an illegal immigrant from Canada.
Uh-huh.
And he's a superhero, and he's trying to make it up for being a superhero. By being a superhero, I guess.
He's never been the most giving superhero, but he's trying his best right now. And he's married, right?
Yep. And there's that one line that I had to, like, reread a few times. I was really confused, like, why he had to say that, but yeah.
What do you think about all of that, about the immigration issue that's being put in place here?
Normally when you, like, think immigration, you think from, like, a place like Mexico or, like, Asia or somewhere like there, not Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was an interesting new take on it, and since I've almost never really seen stuff like that before, that I just thought that was interesting. But I don't know why he would, like, be illegal to do that. Still don't know why.
Plus, he's white, he speaks English, he's got money, he's got prestige, and yet he's still having to go through this immigration thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is really different and strange.
Yeah.
New.
What about the other storyline with the X-Men trying to hunt down the fake Nightcrawler?
That's the one that I really needed to use the context for. Because the rest of it was, like, pretty easy to figure out. This one, it took a while, but I'm slowly getting there. So there's, like, a different Nightcrawler from another universe. As there normally is in Marvel. Marvel likes to spiral a little bit. But so there's a new Nightcrawler. He may have murdered some men or some people.
Which is not what the Nightcrawler from this universe would do, right?
Yeah, and Wolverine's pretty upset about it, and they all try to find him. And he's just kind of stalking the girl he loves, or loved, or, loves.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's got someone else, because this is another universe.
Yeah. Probably didn't make any sense to you, but they were kind of doing an allusion to the old martial artist Bruce Lee and his wife Linda and Bruce, and the guy who came in at the end. He was wearing a jacket with a white stripe down his arm, which is something that Bruce Lee wore a lot, but none of that you would have got because that is way outside of your time frame.
Yeah, no, I didn't get the reference. I just saw Bruce and I was like, it's another Bruce! And then that's literally all my mind said.
All in all, though, you enjoyed reading this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting. It was new.
That's all we can ask for. Anything else you want to add or anything else you want to comment on?
Nope.
Okay. I love you very much, Carrie.
Love you too.
I think I would possibly either go to Matt Murdock or the sensational She-Hulk if I needed my lawyer fix. But that's mostly because they're the only two lawyers that I know.
Now you're going to remember to ask her about lawyers.
I think that Jamie Madrox is a lawyer.
Well, he's everything.
Well,
Oh, God, why did you bring up Madrox?
He's everything, yes.
Cable's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Cable is a lawyer specializing in maritime law, right? No, Wolverine is the lawyer who specializes in maritime law.
But Cable's a time lawyer, so.
Now, I might just be a humble time lawyer from the past and the future. But we had a saying back when I used to live in a robot apocalypse.
Rick, I want that clipped and I want it sent to me.
If you can't trust your neighbors, you can't trust yourself.
You just need to drop that in a random episode that you're editing.
I'm going to. No, you have no idea what I'm going to... You have no idea what I'm going to do with this. It's going to be so much fun.
Shout out time. We like to recognize those listeners that take time to write in or leave us a review. And this is for episode 176, FF number 3, Old Man Johnny. And we had likes from Al Sedano and their podcast, Resurrections, Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast.
Hoover Jeremiah.
Jeremy Daw, I just finished listening to your latest episode. Some takeaways. I got to experience deep fried turkey on Thanksgiving. My girlfriend's dad cooked one and it was quite good. The towels gag really reminded me of the gag Fraction and Aha did in an issue of Hawkeye. Clint is attacked by goons and he sans clothes. Sans, obviously means without. As he fights off his attackers. There's a gag where a bullseye was placed over the privates in a couple of panels. I'm excited to hear your interview with Fraction in a week or so.
Tim Price and their podcast, The Outcasters. Speaking of MacGuffins, I love egg MacGuffins with cheese. Hold the Canadian begging.
We also like to thank those lovely people who give us a few bucks here and there to do our show. We are not all fancy and get sponsored by some embroidery company or some rocks on oil company, Pshaw. We get some nice money from our fans over on Patreon, and that includes adorably astonishing and amazing Andrew Burns.
Cheerfully cheeky and charming Char Logan.
Challenging cheesy and chuckling Charles Gears.
Destructive and devastatingly delightful Damian Witter.
Dynamically dangerous and devious Doug Jones.
Intelligent, interesting, and innovative Isaac Perry.
Jaunty, jubilant, and jazzy Jeff Osterritter.
Jesting, jokey, and jovial Jeff Polier.
Just jealous and jeweled Jeremy Daw.
Muscly, mighty, and meticulous Matthew Birdsey.
Mythical and magnificent monologuing Matthew Lazarus.
Steely, salty, and steamy Sailor Bear Zodar.
Sad and sickeningly silly Shag Matthews.
Tyrannically terrifying and tame Tim Price.
Way, wordy, and wobbly Waffles.
Next issue, we're going to be covering Future Foundation Volume 2, Issue Number 4, Escalation.
Be sure to check out my daughter's comic strip on our website. Just search for Jeff and Rick Present Tales of Tales.
And we have some merchandise available on Redbubble. Go to redbubble.com and search for Unpacking the Power of Power Pack.
And I cannot believe I put this in the script again, but hey, Tom and Chris, can you tell people, if they haven't figured it out already, where people can find you?
Yeah, you've been pretty quiet about it.
Well, I mean, we're just wilting violets at all times, right? You can find us at thewhynotpod.com. You can look up Why Not? Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom on your preferred podcatcher. We are across the various socials doing that, I guess. I don't know. It's a podcast. You listen to it. We're on Blue Sky because why not? And because the other version of Blue Sky is a dystopian hellscape that makes the 616 Canada, blush. So, there's that too. Please look us up. And we are so thrilled and so pleased that Jeff and Rick, you invited us onto your show.
It has been delightful. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm glad that we've been able to talk for 2.5 hours. I'm not sure what the final look of this is going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be over our hour-long thing.
It's going to be 42 minutes, and people are going to be like, those are odd jumps. It's like, yeah, necessary. Very, very necessary.
A lot of edits where it's like, what were we talking about? Anyway.
It's been a pleasure having you guys here. I've really enjoyed it. I want to do this again sometime, too, in some other format as well. You guys are an absolute treat.
Oh, it is always great getting to hang out with you guys, and I wish that we lived closer together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do, too.
This has been great. So much fun.
Jeff and Rick Present is a bi-weekly self-produced podcast recorded in front of a live studio audience of 2 guys from the Midwest.
Hey, 4 guys from the greater Midwest, thank you very much.
What are you talking about?
Shutting.
If you would like to interact with us through the magic of the internet, you can do so through Blue Sky at Jeff and Rick Present, our Facebook page, Jeff and Rick Present, our email address, Jeff and Rick Present, all one word, at gmail.com, or at our website, jeffandrickpresent.wordpress.com. Also, our YouTube channel is Jeff and Rick Present.
And if you'd like to help support our show, we are on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com, Jeff and Rick Present, all one word. We are also a proud supporter of the Hero Initiative, and we'll be donating 10% of our Patreon donations to this great cause. We encourage everyone to give what they can to this worthwhile organization that helps the creators who provide us with such great content. Go to heroinitiative.org to find out more.
Please rate and review us wherever you can, and tell your friends about us, or share your love for us on social media.
And as always, we want to thank the powerful people in our packs.
My wife Cindy and our daughter Carrie.
My fiancée Hillary and our daughter Aurora.
My wife, Erin, and my kids, Ned, Bobby, and Amelia.
My wife and my 3 daughters who are amazingly patient with me.
We love you. Until next time.
Costumes off! Our theme music is 80s Action by Kevin MacLeod. Also featured in this episode is Neon Fury. All music is found at incompetech.com and is licensed under Creative Commons by attribution for no license. Otherwise, I'll add it in post.
Yeah, because we used to use a beer can.
I'm sure Tom has. It's from our very first recording of our very first episode that we made a beer can opening, and that's the exact sound we have used for 20 episodes now.
At least that's what we tell our wives, that it's not us cracking multiple beers every single episode.
Why you gotta say that in the privacy of this conversation between 4 people that no one will ever hear, Tom? Come on.
Bamf.
It appears that it is an extradition case. Yes, Jean Paul has married an American citizen.
Jean-Paul.
No, it's totally fine to call him Jean Paul. I call John Byrne Jean Byrne all the time now. So
Jean.
Also, just wouldn't this be a deportation case, not an extradition case?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Look at Mr. Fancy Pants with his lawyer degree.
All but.
Look at this man who thinks he's all fancy because he has pants. What's it like? Is it awesome? Is it the best?
Depends
Tom,
on pants.
tell us about the life where you wear pants.
We
because
don't get
the rest
pants
of us
in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, what's that like, Mr. Fancy Man? Please tell us. It appears that this is an dang it, you got me on exportation.
Bamf.
I just have to say my oldest kid is going through phlebotomy camp right now to get certified to be a phlebotomist, so this joke really hits me personally. So back to my scripted line.
Bamf.
Okay, who wrote that? That is messed up. Moving on.
I mean, it's accurate.
Literally, he's describing what's on this on the page.
It can be accurate and still be creepy. Moving on.
Because
Well, it's a
I
creepy
probably would have
All
said...
things are true.
Nothing is true and everything is possible.
Bamf.
And then Wolverine arrives, followed by the rest of the team. He chastises... Before I go... Zwan?
Zwan.
Yeah.
Zwan?
It's Zwan.
Zwan?
Like the really bad Billy Corgan band that is not Smashing Pumpkins.
I knew you were going to say that.
I own that CD. Still do. Moving on.
Bamf.
Zwan, Remy, and Bobby turn towards Jean Paul.
Jean Paul.
No,
Nice.
lean into it.
Yeah.
Let it flow through you.
Yeah.